Returning now to our top story, Kevin Rudd says Julian Assange is not responsible for the Wikileaks releases and the United States is to blame.
The Foreign Minister was described as a mistake-prone control freak in US diplomatic cables released yesterday by the whistleblower website. To explain what the latest developments mean for US-Australia relations, we're joined from Sydney by Brendon O'Connor. He's an Associate Professor in American Politics at the US Study Centre. And Brendon O'Connor, does this affect Kevin Rudd's ability to continue as Foreign Minister, these embarrassing, if not damaging, revelations from those cables?
I don't think so. I mean, this is the similar or maybe worse things have been said about Sarkozy, Angela Merkel. I think these leaders will continue on. It's embarrassing, but I don't think it's a career ender. It provides something fascinating to talk about, but I don't think it's something that's going to stop Kevin Rudd in his tracks.
Does it provide something of an irritant for otherwise robust, strong US-Australia relations?
Yes, I think the US is doing a sort of patch-up job all around the world at the moment as a response to these WikiLeaks cables. Hillary Clinton, other members of the State Department, Kirk Campbell, are making calls, probably placating countries like Australia, apologising for what has been in a really, for the United States, a really unfortunate set of leaks.
And it's really, we saw that very quickly yesterday with the State Department wheeling out figures like Kirk Campbell to try to hose down the potential damage. So clearly the Obama administration sees the damage already done and fears what might be coming with thousands of cables yet to be released.
Yes, I mean, it's supposed to be 250,000 documents that were downloaded onto a CD when a serviceman was pretending to listen to Lady Gaga, this guy Bradley Manning, and I think that gets to Rudd's comment that it wasn't Julian Assange who got this information first of all. It was a US Army personnel, and he passed it on to WikiLeaks, and WikiLeaks would strike me as being more than about one person. Assange has obviously been the public face, but I think the organisation's probably got numerous copies of those documents now.
So Kevin Rudd, you believe, has a point when he argues it's not necessarily Julian Assange who should wear all the blame here. Its fingers should be pointed at the rather lax security within the US intelligence framework.
Well, what was amazing about this is that about 2.5 million American employees had access to this information. It was like on an internal internet, like an intranet. And this information was there so they understood what other parts of the government was doing. A great notion of, I suppose, open democratic diplomacy, but democracy and diplomacy, freedom of the press and diplomacy don't always go that well together, and I think we're seeing the real consequences of that at the moment, that it wasn't that surprising that some employee along the way was going to copy this information, it was going to get out to the press and the like.
Now, also, I suppose, unsurprising to me at least, is what's on the front pages of the Fairfax newspapers this morning concerning Mark Arbib. It strikes me that he wouldn't really be doing his job if he wasn't keeping into some sort of close contact with the US Embassy in Canberra.
Yes, I think some people enjoy playing insider roles in all sorts of places, and Arbib is probably a good example of that. He's obviously got his own special relationship with the United States Embassy in Canberra. This gives him some kudos, I imagine, gives him special access to ambassadors, probably the last couple. And then those revelations, some of the revelations about what the US Embassy has been following with regard to the Labor Party. The US Embassy has always had an interest in the left of the Labor Party, thinking that the left at times might have an anti-bases attitude. That really is an old argument, but I think the people that know Australia at the State Department in Washington, that's one of their perennial concerns, and so they tend to want to monitor that issue even when maybe the fears about that issue have quite seriously subsided.
But the insights he was providing to the US Embassy were far from penetrating, including the one that the Labor government was likely to win the Labor Party was likely to win the 2007 election.
Yes. Well, that kind of local political advice
could be picked up reading papers, really.
Yes, I mean that kind of advice, I suppose, sometimes tells you more about the messenger than the message. Their sense of own insight into the issue. I imagine on occasion if there were discussions about factional conflicts, about the power of the union, we've seen some reporting on the power of unions in the Labor Party today, that the US Embassy to an extent would be interested in this kind of information. But I mean, we've got to see how far down the list of things that the Secretary of State might be reading any morning this information would be compared to, say, information about Afghanistan, Iraq, many other sort of troubled spots in the world. This would be read by, I think, a very small number of people within the US State Department, this type of briefing.
Brendon O'Connor from the US Studies Centre, thanks for your insights this morning.
My pleasure.